We're glad that we can bring that to you. The elders allow us to do that. If you're here and you're visiting with us, we're certainly glad to have you here and welcome you back anytime that you're in our area. Barry will have class just in a few minutes. A couple of things that need to go over with you. Don't forget our Thanksgiving Day meal Thursday. There's sign-up sheets in the back if you plan on coming to work. And we'll need delivery people for sure, and we'll need some ladies to help with the cakes and stuff like that. And if you're coming to work, please sign that sheet. If you're coming just to eat, there's a place to sign there. And we welcome everybody to come eat that wants to. And about our meal, guys, this meal is not just for people that are hungry. This meal is for anybody. If you know somebody that's lonely, doesn't have anybody that visits them very much or something, you want to take them a plate, that's great. If you just know somebody that you want to take a plate to, that's great. We don't care who you take a plate to. We don't care who you invite. We want to serve as many people as we can. Remember the sign-up sheets in the back. I think the one for the cakes is full. We added rolls to it a while ago, so we will need some people to bring rolls, drinks, and stuff like that. Just look at your sign-up sheets back there, and you'll see what we need. And we just hope that we can have several people that we can serve and just have a good day of fellowship and give God all the glory. God deserves all the glory, and that's who we want to have the glory. But if you know anyone that you could take a plate to or invite to eat, please do so. Anybody. I'm sure all of us could find somebody to invite, somebody to take a plate to if we try. So everybody remember that. Our guys look like they're finishing up here, and we'll get started here just in a minute. Again, it's certainly glad to see everyone here this morning. It's a beautiful day outside. No better day in the world than to worship our God and to fellowship together. If you have any questions about the Thanksgiving meal, please holler at me. Ask Kathy. We'll be glad to answer any questions that we have concerning our meal. We've been doing this several years, and hopefully we can continue to do it. What, Mason? Sorry. Yeah, come on. Watch this, Dave. Be careful.
All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to shuffle around here and get back started with our Bible study. We're glad everybody could be here this morning. If you have any announcements to be made before the service, you'll see Mason, and he will get that announced before the service. Like I said, I'm glad everybody's here. We're going to continue to study what I've been studying over the past few months, and that's Acts. And we'll be in Acts chapter 9 this morning and possibly get to 10. We'll see. Acts chapter 9. And previously we covered Saul being baptized. And I'm pretty sure we got down to around 25 and 26 here. Yeah, 26. So if you want to turn to Acts chapter 9, starting in verse 26. And like I said, we have come through Acts chapter 8 and 9 here, where Saul's basically on his road to Damascus. And then he went and was preached to, and he was baptized, and now he is going around in the area, Damascus originally, preaching Christ, which confused a lot of people because he literally was there a few days prior and he was persecuting Christians. He was going to round them up and bind them, is what it says, take them to jail. And then a few days after that, he is preaching exactly what Christians believed. So it was confusing to them. So they had to basically lower him down on the outer wall of this city to get him out so that he wouldn't be killed by the local Jews there. Yes, sir.
This gives us hope. No matter what is happening in our lives, no matter what's happening in somebody else's life.
That's right.
This gives us hope because you take a man like Saul that was misguided in what he was doing and turn around like he did. There's hope for everyone.
That's exactly right. Yeah, there's not enough that you've done in your past that Christ can't cover it. And everybody needs to keep that in mind when we're talking to people that, have led a sinful life. And of course, we're all sinners. I don't want to try to pull that as I'm trying to accuse somebody of being something, but we can always tell people that there's not enough that you've done or bad that you've done that Christ can't cover it, because Saul was literally rounding up Christians, and it says murder. His thoughts were to murder them, basically. So it doesn't get a lot worse than that, y'all. And we can see how Saul is turning out here. So we'll start at verse 26 and start reading. And when Saul had come to Jerusalem, he tried to join the disciples, but they were all afraid of him. He did not believe that he was a disciple. So right there, that's the kind of reputation that Saul had. He came back to Jerusalem where he started his quest of basically probably cleansing Jerusalem of Christians. That was probably his goal. And he come back and they didn't believe it. And this is where we see in verse 27, Barnabas steps in. But Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles. And he declared to them how he had seen the Lord on the road, and that he had spoken to him, and how he had preached boldly at Damascus in the name of Jesus. What about Barnabas here? Do we remember where Barnabas, what they called him? Son of encouragement. That's exactly right. I don't know, when I saw that, I just wanted to look up Barnabas and just kind of see how he's sprinkled throughout Acts if you look at it. The first one was where in the first church there, I believe that might have been Acts chapter 2 or 3, where they had first gathered together. They were selling their goods for the church, for everybody to help feed the people that were being converted. And it talks about how he had land, he sold it. And that's how they described him, Barnabas, son of encouragement. So does that make you think what type of person Barnabas was? I mean, if we think about that, I just view him as somebody that would hear about what somebody was doing, and he was up encouraging them. He was encouraging them probably to go out and preach. During Saul's persecution of the Christians, he was probably there encouraging people to hey, if you're going to leave, then keep preaching the gospel, keep spreading it. That's how I see him, as a major encourager as far as spreading the gospel. All right, let's keep going here. 28. So he was with them at Jerusalem, coming in and out and going. So it spread pretty quickly that coming in and going, it means he was going in people's houses, in and out. He was probably going to the synagogue too and preaching. He spoke boldly in the name of the Lord Jesus and disputed against the Hellenists, but they attempted to kill him. When I was studying this, I don't know, for some reason I got kind of hooked on the Hellenists. And we've talked about them in the past. And y'all remember what Hellenists are? You remember what they were? Anybody?
Greek-speaking Jews.
Greek-speaking Jews. So when we first hear about them, I think it's Acts chapter 6, it says the Hellenists were complaining that the widows weren't being taken care of. And I was like, okay, because in 6, my perception was, and it's not a wrong perception, but originally my perception was that, okay, well, these were Greek-speaking Jews that were converted. And it probably was. But then I read this right here, and I was like, wait a second. All the Hellenists aren't good. So when you read that, when you read something, just for me, just try to understand where they are, because in the original, when we first hear about them, they are Greek-speaking Jews that have been converted, and they were complaining to the apostles that, hey, we got widows coming in here, and nobody's taking care of them. And the apostles said, well, we don't have time. We've got to continue preaching the gospel, and that's when they asked for 7 good men to become deacons to do that. Well, that was the first time we heard about them. Now we hear about them right here, Greek-speaking Jews, the Hellenists, and they wanted to kill Saul. They were after him and wanted to get rid of him, because Saul was the ultimate threat now to the Jews. I mean, obviously Jesus was the original, but now they had Saul, who was actually going around persecuting and jailing and even maybe possibly having Christians killed. Now he's swapped. And so they knew how Saul was such a great Jew, if you just want me to say it like it is. They knew that he was a studier and he was zealot, right? He was very good at what he did. Now he has been converted, so they're now going to try to kill him. Yes, sir.
I think too, something that I've always missed in this, I think about how could they not listen to Saul, but they were confused.
Oh yeah.
They were confused because here this guy was doing just exactly what you said.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden, just by the snap of your finger, there it is.
Yeah.
So they were confused.
Yeah. When the brethren, verse 30, when the brethren found out, they brought him down to Caesarea and led him out to Tarsus. So basically they had to get him out of Jerusalem. So now Saul, who's been preaching the gospel probably for a few weeks now or whatever, he's had to leave 2 cities because he was fixing to be killed. They were plotting to kill him everywhere he went.
That's such a role change for him. He was the one that
He was,
killed him.
you're exactly right.
They're trying to kill him.
Yep.
That's such a role change.
A very big role change for him. All right, now we kind of end Saul's story for right now. We all know that he comes back up, but right now, in Acts chapter 9, verse 31, we go back to talking about how the church is at this time. And if I was, the estimates, these are my estimates, because I read where when Stephen was stoned, that was 2 years from Christ returning. So I'm estimating this is we're in the 3 years now that the Christ has that the body has been flourishing throughout the cities around Jerusalem. All right, verse 31. Then the churches throughout Judea, Galilee, Samaria had peace and were edified. Okay, what's edify? I don't ever want to skip over words that maybe somebody doesn't know the definition of.
Equal peace.
Right. Build up, I heard over here. And that I got a good definition that I do want to read, because I think it's if I can find it here. Well, I don't find it. Basically, it was a Greek word for edify, and I was going to try to pronounce it. It's like obaneo or something like that. But it basically meant to build a foundation, to build a house is what that meant. So they were edified. That means you build something up. And so that's what that means there. The next sentence in verse 31, and walking in fear of the Lord and in the comfort of the Holy Spirit, They were multiplied. All right, let's go back to that fear. What kind of fear do y'all see there? There's obviously different definitions of fear, and I think we will need to be sure about what fear of the Lord they had here. What would y'all say? I'm going to throw that out to y'all, and I'll give you what my opinion is or thoughts are. What fear are we talking about? Because we don't want to just scoot over that. Fear now, we could, a monster fear or whatever, you know. But that's not the fear we're talking about here.
I would call it an obedient respect.
That's good, yep. A what? A reverent fear, yeah. Yeah, I was trying to, and those are all correct, and that's how it is here. It's a reverent, respectful fear is what it is. And I was trying to think of ways that maybe I could give an earthly thought to it. And I thought about some of the men here who used to mess with cars and still do, Jason, and if you was to build a car and it had a very powerful engine, you had a reverent fear for that, or you should, a respect for it, because it could get out of control, could it not? If you did not, that's a respect or fear, it could get out of control. I even thought of maybe meeting Mike Tyson. I don't have any fear to walk up to Mike Tyson and stick my hand out and shake his hand. I would have fear if I was climbing into a ring and I looked over there and I saw Mike Tyson. Those are two different fears, y'all. I mean, they're in the same, that I respect who he is as what he did for a living, and I didn't want to go against it, okay? So it's the fear, the respect is what we have here. It's not a scared, cowering fear when we see that fear here.
When you talk about the car, having respect for it and everything, and that's that kind of fear, but if you get in that car and you're afraid to drive it, you're not going to be very successful.
That's exactly right. Two different kinds of fear. That's exactly right. Anyone else comments before we move on? All right, in Acts chapter 9 here, we jump to verse 32, and we have a whole nother subject being brought up here. We went from the church prospering, now we're in 32 where it says, "Now it came to pass as Peter went through all the parts of the country, that he also came down to the saints who dwelt in Lydia." Who are the saints? The Christians, right. Are we saints? We are, that's right. So Peter was going there more than likely to build them up, to help them, the church that was established there in Lydia. 33, there he found a certain man named Ananias, who had been bedridden 8 years and was paralyzed. And as Peter said to him, "Ananias, Jesus Christ heals you. Arise and make your bed." Then he arose immediately. Did Peter walk into Ananias and say, "Hey, I'm going to heal you"? He didn't. What did he do? He told him who was healing him, right? Jesus the Christ heals you. So he made sure to make that point, because they didn't need any confusion back then. And we'll even see it later on in another story that we're coming up on here. The tendency here would have been that they would start worshiping Peter, right? Because they were saying, "Hey, this man is healing people." Peter made sure right here, he gave all the credit, right? Every bit of it. Jesus the Christ heals you. Arise and make your bed. That's a very good point. We need to keep bringing that up as we read these.
That's another example of that respect that you just talked about.
Yep.
They were making sure they were giving credit where credit was due and
That's
not
right.
building themselves.
Yeah. Giving God all the glory, and that's what we talk about here all the time. Anytime this church in this building has blessings that we can talk about, we're not bragging about this church, are we, Chuck? We're not bragging about us and what we do, right? We're giving all glory to God that He has allowed us to do this and to do it in His name.
And the end result is what the last of that verse says. Saw him and turned to the Lord.
Right. That's right.
Saw him and turned to the Lord.
Saw Him and turned to the Lord. That's exactly right. It's a good point.
Barry,
Yes, sir.
you said, he spoke out and said, "Jesus Christ heals you." If you look back in Matthew, around verses 14 and 15, the apostles tried to heal a person, and
And
they
they
couldn't.
could. That's right. That's a
And
good point.
They were rebuked for it. And it made, when you read the context of it, it was like they thought they had the power to do it.
Right.
That's why Jesus rebuked them. You
Yeah.
can do it with mine.
Yes, that's a good story. Yes, you're right. That's probably what that was about. All right, so now we've done that. We know where Peter is. Peter's in Lydia. So now we come to the story. We start in verse 36. At Joppa, there was a certain disciple named Tabitha, which is translated Dorcas. Okay, translated from what? Let's all be clear what we're talking about here. Because when I read stuff like this, I told this just before, I've got to where I just don't read stuff and go, okay, all right, we translated it from, why? Why did we translate it to Dorcas? Those are questions I ask, and so does it mean a lot? Maybe not. Tabitha, which I told y'all, this is going to come up again. Tabitha more than likely was a Hellenist because of this right here. This is what tells you this. The translation is from Hebrew. Tabitha is a Hebrew name, a Jewish name. Dorcas is a Greek name. She was living in Joppa, which was primarily Greek and Roman ran. So she was giving a name, a Greek name, while she's living there, and it was Dorcas. So we can say that Tabitha, now let's go all the way back to what I tell y'all was chapter 3, I believe, where the Hellenists complained about the widows. Let's keep reading in this story. Not being taken care of. This woman was full of good works and charitable deeds, which she did. But it happened in those days that she became sick and died. When they had washed her, they laid her in the upper room. And since Lydia was near Joppa, and the disciples had heard that Peter was there, they sent 2 men to him, imploring him not to delay and come to them. Then when Peter arose and went with them, when he had come, they brought him to the upper room, and all the widows stood by him weeping, showing their tunics and garments which Dorcas had made while she was with them. What does that tell y'all about Tabitha and what she was doing? We know she was doing things for widows. We can jump all the way back to the Hellenists at that time, and I'm not going to tell you that Tabitha was there, but it was Hellenists that complained that the widows were not being taken care of. All the way to here, where we can see that Tabitha was a Hellenist, more than likely. It doesn't state it in the Bible. I'm just telling y'all she's a Hebrew. She lived in a Greek room. She had a Greek name. She was more than likely a Jew that spoke Greek. And here we are, she is taking care of widows to the point that she is sewing clothes, she is making stuff for them. These widows, more than likely, and are disciples in the church there in Joppa.
I got a footnote at the bottom of my Bible. It says Dorcas equals, I guess it means the same as gazelle.
Gazelle?
I don't know what gazelle is.
Yeah, I don't know.
And gazelle means, I looked it up, gracious.
Okay. Gazelle means gracious. Okay. Interesting.
You know, I think that one of the things that the two guys that you referenced to, the Hellenists were complaining, instead of complaining, she did something.
Exactly right. Yep. Yeah. She saw, and she probably saw what the apostles had told about getting the 7 men. She was more than likely working under deacons in Joppa doing this good work. I mean, that's more than likely what was happening. Let's go back to Joppa. Talk about that town for just a second. Let's see here. If I got it. So Joppa was a Greek city during the Acts times. So that means these were Jewish Greeks that lived there. Y'all remember what city that Noah, or that, not Noah, who got swallowed by the fish? Jonah. What city did Jonah run to?
Or John.
Joppa. That's where he ran to. I think somebody here had a slide one time was showing the distance, and it was just all the way across. He went as far as he could get away from Nineveh. Yeah, he went way off. It's also known for being a kind of like a port city, and actually the wood that was used in building the Temple of Solomon came out of Joppa. So it's mentioned several times throughout the Bible, and now it is Tel Aviv. So if you hear somebody say Tel Aviv, that's where Joppa was, right where Tel Aviv is now. All right, let's get back to. All right, 39. Then Peter arose. I see I read that, didn't I? I'm sorry. 40. But Peter put them all out, knelt down, and prayed. And turning to the body, he said, Tabitha, arise. I kind of found that a little interesting. Y'all may not. He didn't call her Dorcas, did he? He did not. Peter was a Jew, converted Christian. So he called her by her Hebrew name, Tabitha. And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, sat up. Then he gave her his hand and lifted her up. And when he had called the saints and the widows, he presented her alive. And it came known throughout all Joppa, and many believed on the Lord. So it was that he stayed many days in Joppa with Simon the tanner. So, many believed after this. It's another example of someone being healed. We can go back to Aeneas being healed. And I kind of meant to mention this too. After Aeneas was healed, it said many turned to the Lord. In the whole area, basically, because it says, in going back to verse 35, so all who dwelt in Lydia and Sharon saw him. They saw Aeneas walking around and turned to the Lord. That tells you right there, many people knew him throughout the area. So we got two communities here that were affected by him being healed. So not an accident, not anything God does is an accident, but he was a well-known person, more than likely, that had been paralyzed for 8 years. And now people saw him walking around, and it made them turn to the Lord. The same here with Tabitha. There was many people who weren't believers, they weren't Christians. And they saw Tabitha, they knew what good work she did, they knew she died. Now they're seeing her up. So many turned and believed in the Lord after this. All right, chapter 10. We're going to start the Cornelius here. All right, chapter 10. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of what was called the Italian regiment, a devout man and one who feared God with all his household, who gave alms generously to the people and prayed to God always. So, what was Cornelius? Other than, we know he was a centurion, which meant he was a soldier man, right? He was in charge of an army, very large regiment. But what was he also? Gentile. He was a Gentile. That means he was not a Jew. Basically what that means, he was not a Jew. But somehow, through him being around Jewish people, around Christians of the time, who was he praying to? In my Bible, it's a capital G there, right? It's a capital G. He was praying to God. Now, Gentiles in the past, we've read in the Bible, are known for this wood is a god. That bird flying is a god. So they had many, many gods, the Gentiles did, at this time. But him, being a devout man, it says, prays to God always. I don't want to skip over the alms thing. We've talked about alms before. I want everybody to know what alms were. Alms basically means he gave money to help people. He gave food to help people. So he was obviously a good man. And he prayed to God. In verse 3, about the 9th hour of the day, he saw clearly in a vision an angel of God coming in and saying to him, Cornelius. And when he observed him, he was afraid. What is it, Lord? I think we talked about this last time, Mike. There's no capital L right there, y'all. Back then, if you were around someone and they were a hierarchy or whatever, you would call them Lord. You know, if you were a slave, your master was Lord to you. So he is just recognizing that, hey, yeah, whatever this is happening, whatever I'm seeing right now, I'm below it. So
It's not like Paul's conversion. When Paul was converted, it has a capital.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Going on in verse 4 there. So he said to him, your prayers and your alms have come up for a memorial before God. What does that mean, guys? Give me your input there. We have an angel that's come down from God and told Cornelius that your prayers and alms have come up for a memorial before God.
In other words, God's hearing his prayers and
He is.
seeing the works he's doing.
That's right.
He recognizes.
Yeah. I mean, a memorial is basically God is more than likely not only seeing stuff that's happening right now, he's remembering how long Cornelius has been doing this. He's like, boy, I'm telling you what, Cornelius has proven that he wants to know God more. And so that's the reason. That's right. So he's going to help him out. That's what Chuck said. That's exactly right. Verse 5. Now send men to Joppa and send for Simon, whose surname is Peter. He is lodging with Simon, a tanner, whose house is by the sea. He will tell you what you must do. And when the angel who spoke to him had departed, Cornelius called 2 of his household servants and a soldier, a devout soldier, from among those who waited on him continuously. So he's taken 2 servants and a devout soldier. I don't think, once again, we don't ever want to take words that are in the Bible and just look over them, in my opinion. He said a devout soldier. He was a leader over many soldiers. Mike, what would a centurion be over? Is that 1,000? Or am I wrong?
It says in my version, he was over a battalion.
A battalion. Okay, and how many's in a battalion? I done forgot. A bunch? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your expert opinion.
It's not as big as a company, but it's bigger than a patrol or a unit.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, a century is 100, and that's kind of where I was thinking that. So if he's probably
It's
hundreds of hundreds. It could be. You're exactly right. But anyway, my point to all that is he had a lot of them. A lot of them probably wouldn't have went along with what he was doing here and might have even reported him to somebody and say, man, if you know what Cornelius is doing, Cornelius is sending for one of these Christians to come here. So he picked a devout one.
I take it as somebody you trusted.
Right, exactly. One that's loyal to him. More than likely, had seen Cornelius praying, is probably amongst his, around him close, and so were the servants. So, he picked a devout soldier to go with him. And the reason he had to do that, these times were not great times all around this area. You could be robbed at any minute. Ask the Good Samaritan. So,
These servants couldn't have defended themselves.
Exactly right.
Against
No.
bad people.
that's exactly right. And it gave an utmost of respect, too. I mean, if this soldier, who was probably high in ranking, if he went into Joppa or any soldiers there would not have questioned him in what he was doing. So he could have went in, got Peter, and come back with not any problems whatsoever.
It's strange to me, sitting here thinking about it, that he is a devout man, pray to God, when you think about the soldiers who treated Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're thinking they're not devout men.
Yeah.
And believe in God, and then there's one that
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because that's the way I kind of thought of it too, was Cornelius himself, we don't know what he had saw in his life. He'd obviously been around Jews probably all his life. He had heard about the crucifixion of Christ, and now he's seeing these Christians, this new belief, these followers of Christ, and he had an interest. And he had studied either with the Jews and now studying maybe with the Christians. I'm not sure about it, but something piqued him to the point that he said, I want to know about that. We talked about Wednesday night that Cornelius, we were talking about rich people. Jimmy was giving a class, and rich people get a reputation of usually being bad. But Cornelius is the exception to this. He had servants. He was probably one of the richest in this area, is my thought, being over an army this size. So he had a good heart, and this is another occasion where God knew that.
Something that I think stands out a lot, that he prayed to God, and God came to him and recognized what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we sometimes we say, well, we want to pray for God to put somebody in our path or for us to be able to do something, but do we really mean it? Evidently, this man was very passionate about his prayers, you know, and wanting to learn about God, and God recognized it.
Yeah.
And we need to understand He'll recognize our prayers if they're meaningful and compassionate.
We all believe that God knows our heart and knows where every prayer is coming from when we pray them. And it's the same here. We know about David's situation, but David was likened to God as far as how he was. God knew his heart, and even though he made some big mistakes, and so Cornelius here is doing the same thing. Cornelius,
It's important that you recognize that God called him by name. When he sent his messenger, he called him by his name. Names are important.
yes,
You need to pay attention to names because you want God to know your name.
that's exactly right. Yeah,
If you look at Lazarus and the rich man, you know Lazarus' name. You don't know the rich man.
that's exactly right.
You can tell where both of those are.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. Yep. You definitely want God to know your name, and God knew his name through his alms and prayers that he had sent to God. 8. So when he had explained all these things to them, he sent them to Joppa. All right, we got about 5 minutes here, so we're going to try to cover this last little bit, the vision of Peter here. The next day, as they went on their journey and drew near the city, Peter went up on the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. Then he became very hungry and wanted to eat. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance and saw heaven open and an object like a great sheet bound at the 4 corners descending to him and let down to the earth. In it were all kinds of 4-footed animals of the earth, wild beasts, creeping things, and birds of the air. And a voice came to him, "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." But Peter said, "Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything common or unclean." All right, let's stop there. I find it interesting that the Lord told Peter to do something, and he said, "Not so." I find that a little interesting. But let's talk about the animals and the unclean and all that. So what were Jews basically forbidden to eat? What are some of the examples we can give of that we know of?
They didn't eat anything with blood in it.
With what?
They didn't eat anything that had blood in it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it had to be they couldn't eat anything that was a forked hoof, is that how you say it?
It had to be fork or
Cleft, is that the word?
hoof and chew the cud.
And chew the cud, that's right.
And they couldn't have fish, didn't have scallops.
There you go. So that takes hogs out of it, takes catfish out of it. I know those are the 2 things that always popped into my mind. I find it interesting that it was birds. I don't know what of the Jewish faith that there may have been some birds that they were forbidden to eat. I'm not sure about that. The creeping things worries me a little bit. I don't know exactly what all the creeping things was, because I'm thinking bugs, I'm thinking lizards. I don't know, but there was a lot there. Was it God's point at this point to tell Peter that, hey, it's okay to eat anything? Was that his point right here? But I don't think it was. I don't think that was his point right here. We see later as we read, but I just wanted to stop there. I don't think Peter was just telling him, hey, you know what, if I made it, you can eat it. I don't believe that was his point here. Anybody got any comments on that? Because we've got the kids coming back, and we'll go on. I'm here next Sunday, right? And we'll go on and finish this up if y'all want to study about this, because I think it's used a lot. I know in my life of meeting Christians that will not eat pork or eat catfish.
I believe that lesson is twofold, because the fact that the food's being brought up is later on reiterated in the New Testament, that anything that you give thanks for, it's accepted.
Yep.
You have to eat, but it's also parallel to anyone who's praying to God at this time around, they were not Jews, Israel was not a Jew.
Right.
So God accepts anyone that has that sincerity.
Exactly right. Yeah, this dream or vision was basically to prepare Cornelius, to prepare Peter for Cornelius and what he was as a Gentile. Okay, thank y'all. We'll see you next week, and thank you for coming today.